I was fortunate to have Viktor Frankl as a visiting professor when I was in graduate school. He was in a concentration camp in Dachau, and he made a lot of very interesting observations. He observed that the people who stayed healthier and lived longer and didn't run into the electric wire to kill themselves or get malaria and die or be abused by the guards or often hauled off more quickly to the chambers had to do with what they were thinking, where they focused their minds. Because if they were focusing their minds on the negative things, they were going to be experiencing more stress. That would emanate outward. It would emanate outward to the guards. It would bring responses from them. It would affect their internal state of being and their immune response as well. So I learned from him that the most important thing we can do is to be in charge of what we think. He said about the concentration camp that the one thing those Nazi guards could not take away from them was the power to think what they chose to think in their minds. No one else held that power. When I think of him doing that in a concentration camp, why can't I do that in my own life? Because it certainly doesn't even compare in any way to what he experienced. We forget that we have that control over our thoughts, and our thoughts control our stress. And if we can use one of these newer tools for clearing those out, then we can eradicate that information that gets activated and produces our stress. Using meridian stimulation, it might mean that you touch on this acupressure point or you tap on it and say, I release all fear related to this problem, and then breathe. And over here, I release all anger, resentment, and rage related to this problem, and breathe. Or you might just hold your fingers on them, and I release all anxiety related to this problem, and take a slow, deep breath. I release all embarrassment related to this problem, and take another breath. And I release all shame and guilt related to this problem, and breathe. Then under the arm, about 4 inches from the armpit, to say, I release all worry and excessive concern related to this problem. And then the fingers to the bottom of the chest, the bottom of the rib cage, and say, I release all hurt and sadness related to this problem. And then place your hand up over the heart, much like you do when you say you pledge allegiance. But this time you're just saying, breathing in love and exhaling fear. Breathing in love and exhaling fear. Because the greatest healing force for fear in the whole universe is love itself. And if I can remember a loving scene, if I can remember a loving thought towards someone, or a compassionate thought, or just breathing in love and exhaling fear down through my solar plexus, that in itself can often, by going through 2 or 3 or 4 rounds of that process, I can clear out that information from that old trauma, that old disturbing experience that gets reactivated, that say, I'm going to be rejected, or I'm going to be abused, or I'm going to be deprived, or I'm going to be hurt again, or I'm going to be abandoned again. Those kind of things must be cleared, or we'll keep reactivating them over and over again in our lives and being stressed and stressed and stressed. If I'm having the thoughts of fear, the thoughts of worry, the thoughts of anger, I'm going to have those emotions that correspond to it. If I keep those emotions active, I'm going to keep myself more stressed. I suppose one of our basic sources, if not the basic source of our stress, is our belief in the illusion of separateness. And in that illusion of separateness, then we feel powerless. As we feel powerless, that produces all sorts of problems for us in our lives. But the idea that we're separate, Einstein actually referred to that as an optical illusion, because it just isn't so. In fact, physicists talk about the unified field, that there's just one unified field of consciousness that we're all a part of, one energy field and with consciousness. Now, if I can begin to realize my interconnectedness, my oneness, that I'm part of the all that is, I'm part of that, not separate from it. If I can recognize that I'm connected to source energy, I'm connected to source intelligence, I'm connected to source power, if I can begin to embrace that, then I move out of fear, I move out of mistrust, I move out of worry about the future. I'm able to just hold my consciousness where I want to go, but without worry and without attachment. When that can happen, our stress level goes down and down and down. And finally, we can return more to a genuine peace.